Thank you so much for welcoming me back. What a glorious day. And I'm so sad right now that I had 4 bites of my lunch. So don't you dare touch my lunch. No, I'm just kidding. Enjoy your lunch because it's fabulous. I'm not sure who the caterer is, but that salmon is delicious. So can we just give a round of applause for this beautiful luncheon? It's a spectacular day, and I have had the pleasure of meeting our ladies of honor, our Rose Court, and wow, you're in for a really, really special day to hear from them. I'm so honored to be here. This is one of the events that I look forward to every year. I think back about my relationship with the Rose Parade and Tournament House, and my first experience with the Rose Parade was like many people around the country, on the television screen. I grew up, born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and it was a family tradition of ours to watch the Rose Parade on TV. And it was one of the very first stories I ever did when I came here to Los Angeles. I was working as a per diem reporter, didn't have a job yet. I came here in hopes and dreams that I would one day work in Los Angeles. I came here to visit my husband. I came here to visit my boyfriend at the time, husband now, for Thanksgiving, and said, "Gosh, I'd love to work in Los Angeles," but I didn't have a job. And the news director said to me, interviewed a bunch of different news directors, and there was one news director at a station not to be named, who said to me, if you come out here to Los Angeles, I'll give you kind of temporary work, per diem work for the holidays. I went back to Denver, sold my house in 6 days, went to my news director, my boss there, and said, "I'm going to go to Los Angeles." And she said, "Are you crazy? You're going to leave a news director in Los Angeles? No, you have to stay here. This is your home." And I said, I just have a dream. I just want to try this. I'm going to do it. So I packed up my car and my little dog, Mia, my little Bichon Frise named Mia, and I moved here. And one of the first stories that I was assigned was the Rose Parade. And I remember going to watch the floats being decorated and they let me put a couple of seeds and no flowers. I would have loved to put a flower on a float, but no, you're doing seeds and the intricacies. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is how it's done. I had no idea. Then fast forward all the years later, and I'm now a veteran reporter in Los Angeles, and I'm taking my baby, Olivia. Basically, she was a baby. I remember carrying her and sitting her on my lap for one of the very first Rose Parades. And it became a family tradition for us to go to the parade and be on the parade route. And then fast forward a little bit more, and now here I am, your host, your MC for this. And so it's funny how life works. You never know where your path is going to lead. But I'm just thrilled that my path is paved with little rose petals to all of you to be here and experience this, because it really is about celebrating triumph and potential and promise in these young women and what they're going to accomplish in the world. So the fact that you are all here to celebrate them and support them means everything. And so when someone tells you, young ladies, "Are you crazy? You're going to do what?" Pack up your car, put your puppy in the car, and go and dream big, because you just never know where you're going to land. And I'm just thrilled to be here with all of you. So thank you so much for letting me be here. I can tell you that I'm always amazed, actually, when I visit this beautiful tournament house, the history here, to think of all the people over the last 136 years who have marched down this street on New Year's Day. It kind of takes your breath away to think about the millions of fans around the world who look forward to this annual tradition as the official start to their fresh new year. There's so much history, there is so much beauty, and when I think of that, my mind always goes to the amazing young women who we've talked about. They represent this tradition as part of the Rose Court. I'm so fortunate to have met many of these young ladies over the years. I was so excited to meet 7 more today. I've been following so many of them that I've met over the years on Instagram. We're BFFs on social media. But I get to see what they're doing, and I see I watch their stories and where they are, and they're at college, and then they're graduating from college, and they're doing these amazing things. And we, I heart their stories, and they heart my stories. And for those of you who are not familiar with social media, it's really cool. No, honestly, it just makes me feel like, I just want to support them. And so I'm so thrilled that we can have those connections. And it may just be for a moment, but they know I'm rooting for them, and it means everything. We have gathered here to meet and celebrate and get to know this year's Rose Court. It's important to note that this, bringing people together, is really what the Tournament of Roses is all about. The theme of this year's parade, you guys know what it is, right? Can everybody say it with me? 1, 2, 3. Best day ever! It's such a great theme. Here to elaborate on that theme is the 2025 Tournament of Roses President, Ed Morales.
Thank you, Lynette. Thank you so much for being here. Earlier this year, I got to meet Lynette in her studio. I was one of the first people to arrive. She said they'd been shut down for COVID, but we had a great time. I got to present her with roses on what I believe was Red Rose Day.
Yes, thank you.
So, having served as chair of the Queen and Court Committee, this time-honored tradition has a very special place in my heart. So thank you all for being here today to share on this special occasion. Today is one of those moments that I've been looking forward to all year. As Lynette mentioned, our theme is Best Day Ever. It celebrates life's special moments, those unexpected times that bring a smile and fill us with joy, from a once-in-a-lifetime experience to the simplest pleasures. Each memory is etched into our hearts. As we plan for the Best Day Ever on January 1st, 2025, our theme brings the hope that the days leading up to the Rose Parade and Rose Bowl game and the new year will be filled with many best days ever. We also celebrate those people who create many best days for other people, and that includes all of you. I especially like what our new Grand Marshal, Billie Jean King, said about the theme. Billie said, "Best day ever." I love that. It reminds me to live in the moment and to be present. Billie has spent many, many years championing equality and, of course, especially women's sports. Most recently, she's been creating a lot of best days ever for one of my favorite group of athletes, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we wish her well in that endeavor, and one more game. My wife, Lisa, and I have had a chance to meet and get to know the 7 young women on the Rose Court, expertly selected by the Queen and Court Committee. And to say that they are smart, funny, accomplished, compassionate, and relatable only begins to describe what makes them extraordinarily awesome. But I don't need to expend a bunch of time telling you this. You're going to see for yourself. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to the parents and families, to these exceptional young women. Welcome to the tournament family. You should be very proud, and I know you all are. I would also like to recognize the schools, teachers, and communities that have supported the Rose Court members. They've been so busy the last few weeks. Thank you for letting them become part of our family as well as yours. On Wednesday, January 1st, when a live audience along the parade route of 750,000 people and a broadcast audience of more than 45 million viewers worldwide are watching the greatest parade in the world, we will all enjoy, especially small children, seeing one of the most beautiful anticipated floats, the one carrying the Rose Queen and Rose Court. My sincere thanks to everyone that has made this day possible, the Coronation Committee, Queen and Court Committee, and the many tournament members who spend countless hours volunteering. To our wonderful professional staff, sponsors, and MC, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ed. So you have to know that there are so many people who have made this beautiful afternoon possible. So before we meet the court, I want to take a few moments to thank these very important guests. First, this lunch and the Rose Court would not be possible without the generosity of our presenting sponsors. Sponsor 1, Citizens Business Bank. It has been a treasured relationship for many years, and on behalf of the Tournament of Roses and the Rose Court, we thank you so much for your support. And I would also like to take a moment to welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of Citizens Business Bank, Dave Brager. Dave, please stand up. He's like, come on. Thank you to you, and thank you to Citizens Business Bank. In addition to our presenting sponsor, we are fortunate to have a dedicated group of talented, loyal, and supportive sponsors. Please join me in thanking the outstanding team at Macy's who provide the Rose Court with their fantastic wardrobe each year. I think they're at table 4, right? And Tadashi Soji, who generously donates the fabulous formal gowns that will be worn by the court later today. To Diane Hoover and the team at Mikimoto, who make sure these young women sparkle with their beautiful crown and tiaras. And to the tremendously talented team at the Paul Mitchell School here in Pasadena, who ensure the court's hair is fabulous throughout the season. Thank you to them. And Clinique for providing makeup for the Rose Court, including personalized beauty tips. Take it from the girl who got up this morning at 1:30 a.m. and did her own hair and makeup. It's a really, really great thing to have it done for you. The gorgeous floral decor, bouquets, and arrangements that you will see today and at many related events throughout the year and every year, one of my very favorites, provided by the talented Kim Williams and the enchanted florist of Burbank. And last but certainly not least, a big thank you to Pasadena City College, celebrating their 100th anniversary by sponsoring the Rose Court float that you will see on New Year's Day. We thank all of you so much for all that you've done and all that you will do to make this an unbelievable year for the Rose Court. Also, the generous folks at Passion Growers have once again graciously provided single red roses for all of you today. I know that you are as eager as I am to hear from this year's Rose Court, but before we do that, I just want to tell you that all 7 members of our Rose Court are still in high school, and they will be graduating next year to explore new adventures near and far. But they will forever be part of the Tournament of Roses family, and several guests in today's audience are proof of that. Today we are honored to be joined by Rose Queens from throughout the tournament's history. Queens, if you could please stand up so we can give you a round of applause. And now it is the time that we've all been waiting for. I'm so honored to introduce to you and introduce all of the 2025 Rose Court. These 7 young ladies highlight the mosaic of backgrounds and cultures that define the Pasadena community and exemplify the character, service, and leadership modeled through their commitment to family, school, and community. Please join me in welcoming the first member of our Rose Court, Lizette Parker, a senior at Maranatha High School. Lizette lives in Pasadena and is the daughter of Jamie and Suzanne Parker.
Good evening, everyone. I am beyond grateful to be spending this time with you here today. But first, a big thank you to my Rose Court sisters who have been with me throughout this entire process. You are a tremendous inspiration. Now, to all the guests here today, how many of you have told yourselves no, as in it's not possible for yourselves, before actually trying? Maybe it was qualifying for that car loan, or securing that mortgage, or that once-in-a-lifetime vacation. Statistics support that 85% of us here struggle with self-doubt. That's the majority of the people sitting at your table. A quick glance at my high school peers reflects an even higher percentage as they share their self-doubts around test scores, college acceptances, and if he or she will say yes to homecoming. All this self-doubt, even though the odds are that will prevail. But what about me? Just over a month ago, my mom had sent me an email application for the Rose Court. Although this was a dream of mine, it was more of a dream than a reality. And as unobtainable as this seemed, I decided to apply anyways. Why not? I showed up for my Rose Court interview on the last day, received my badge number 299, and stood in front of the judges for the longest and most nerve-wracking 15 seconds of my life. Walking out of that interview, I was filled with self-doubt. This was out of reach, unachievable. I had told myself no. That night, while cleaning out my room, continued to be filled with self-doubt, I had a moment of realization, and I threw out my badge. And well, who would have thought the next morning, my mom sent me an email congratulating me on making it to the second round of interviews. Quite unbelievable. That night, the contents of a recycle bin were strewn across the kitchen floor, and no matter how hard we searched, my badge was nowhere to be found, which meant I had to make that very embarrassing call to the Tournament of Roses office asking if they could please provide me with a new badge. Sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by empty milk cartons, scattered cans, and a sea of plastic containers, I had a moment of realization, and I embraced, why not me? Why had I succumbed to telling myself no instead of letting the panel of judges tell me no? This was a pivotal moment in my life. I stand before you today as one of the 7 Rose Court princesses, and I wish to ask you, do you have a no in your life today? Is it that dream home? Is it that new car? Or is it that once-in-a-lifetime vacation? Or maybe it's a family member, a son, a daughter, or a grandchild who may pass on applying to their dream college because they believe they do not have the grades and are telling themselves no. I was recently having a conversation about this with my dad, of Salvadorian and Costa Rican descent, in which he asked me, ¿Por qué te dijiste que no? Why had I told myself no? I didn't have an answer for him, so he shared this story with me. Does the name Charles Blodin ring a bell? Charles Blodin was a famous Niagara Falls tightrope walker in the 1800s. Charles would walk back and forth on a tightrope about 1 inch thick. That's about the width of 2 fingers held together. Cheered on by up to crowds of 25,000 onlookers, he would perform these stunts time and time again without fail, even going as far as to balance while sitting on a chair and cooking an omelet, thousands of feet above the falls. One day, it was announced that Charles would be performing another one of these stunts, yet again, a 1/4 mile long across the falls. The catch? This time, he would be pushing a wheelbarrow along the line with him. Upon hearing the news, the crowds gathered, thousands and thousands of onlookers, young and old. Charles yelled into the crowd, "Do you believe I can do this?" And the crowd roared, "Yes, we do." And he yelled again, "Do you really believe I can do this?" And the crowd roared, "Yes, we do." And Charles spotted one man in particular at the front of the crowd with his hands in the air, clearly filled with enthusiasm. And he approached the man and he asked, "Dear sir, do you really believe I can do this?" And the man replied with an emphatical, "Yes, I do." And he asked again, "Dear sir, do you really believe I can do this?" And the man again replied, "Yes, I really do." And upon hearing this, Charles looked at the man and he said, "Well then, dear sir, I invite you to get into the wheelbarrow." Now, as you might expect, the man's smile slowly faded and he disappeared back into the crowd. I'd like to challenge you to grow as a person today and ask yourselves, are you hesitant about getting into your own wheelbarrows? Are you already telling yourself no? I overcame my no by applying to become a member of the Rose Court, and in the past few months have grown leaps and bounds in becoming the person I wish to be with the confidence I deserve. I'd like to encourage you all to do the same so that you too can have your best day ever. It's time we all get into our own wheelbarrows and change our narratives too. Why not me? Thank you.
She's just a little taller than me. Another round of applause for Princess Lisette. Okay, so now please join me in welcoming Sanaya Brunston to the podium. She is a senior at John Muir High School. She lives in Pasadena and is the daughter of Samuel Brunston and Tanea Crockett.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is a quote by Maya Angelou. Her words hold a profound truth, reminding us that what lingers long after we've left a room is how we make people feel. Think about that. Think about every time you've held on to a feeling long after the action was committed. I mean, we've all held a grudge or two. Or more commonly, when someone asks, "How's your day going?" Your answer depends on the interactions you had that morning. Now, I'm going to tell you a story from my childhood, and I ask that you keep one thing in mind. How do we measure the true impact we have on others? As a child, I cherished the magic of the Rose Parade. Every year, my family and I would camp out, bundled in blankets and our warmest jackets, in preparation for the cold December air, waiting in anticipation for the magnificent floats that would ride in the following morning. Those nights were filled with shared stories, making s'mores over a small fire pit, thanks, Dad, and laughter. But it was the 2016 Rose Parade that forever changed me. I was only 8 years old, wide-eyed and full of wonder, watching the magnificent floats glide by. Amongst them all, the Rose Court float captured my heart. At that tender age, I was just beginning to understand myself, my height, my skin, how clothes fit me. As a dark-skinned girl, I often felt that the only character I could relate to was Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog. But she was just that, a cartoon. There weren't too many young actresses who shared the same characteristics as I did. But then, there she was, Princess Regina Pullens, a beautiful dark-skinned princess who looked like me. I will never forget how I felt in that moment. It was as if the world around me paused. Princess Regina, with her radiant smile, looked at me and waved. And in that simple gesture, she spoke volumes. She was telling me, "You belong here." Her presence was more than just a figure on a float. It became a beacon of hope, of representation and possibility. In that instant, seeing someone who looked like me shifted something inside me. Princess Regina carried herself with such strength and beauty. It was a revelation. It was as if I had been waiting my whole life to see someone who reflected the very things that I was beginning to value in myself. And I remember turning to my mom and saying, "I want to be a Rose Princess one day." And though that day was 9 years ago, thinking about it still wraps me in a warm feeling of joy. And I can truly say that it was one of my best days ever. This is why provoking positive emotion matters. It wasn't Princess Regina waving that I remember the most. There were 6 other people on that float waving. It was the feeling of seeing someone in a position that I looked up to who looked like me. So how do we measure the true impact we have on others? It is in the way we make people feel, in those moments of connection that lift someone's spirit. that gives them hope. Maya Angelou's words remind us that long after our words have faded, the feeling remains. If Miss Pullins was here today, I would thank her. Today, I stand as a Rose Princess. Today, I am that same representation that I had so many years ago. I am now that beacon of hope, of representation and possibility. As you go forward today, I ask you, consider the power you have, the power to make someone feel seen and uplifted. Be intentional with your kindness. We create ripple effects in everyone's lives. It is not just about what you say or do, it is about how we make others feel. I challenge you today. Find someone who shares your journey, whether it's your background, your struggles, or your dreams, and lift them up. A smile, a kind word, an acknowledgement can be life-changing. Together, we create spaces where everyone feels seen and heard, where they feel like they belong. Because in the end, the legacy we leave behind is not measured in accomplishments and accolades. It is measured in the love, kindness, and compassion that we spread along the way. Are you ready to make a difference? Thank you.
Princess Sanaya, you know that you will be the princess now, waving to all those little girls. And you're not a character, you're a real life person. So beautiful, beautiful speech, thank you. And Mom is crying over there. Next, please join me in welcoming Laura Georgian, a senior at Mayfield Senior High School. Laura is the daughter of Zach and Linda Georgian and lives in Pasadena.
It's September 30th, Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. And today marks the day that I'm officially a part of the 2025 Rose Court. My dad was unable to make it due to work in Washington, D.C., and had sent me a text to congratulate me on the news. Even from 2,000 miles away, my dad was with me, streaming it live in his office conference room for everyone to see. In proper dad fashion, he offered his words of encouragement. He wrote, "I need you to know that this is such an exciting experience, but it does not add or deduct from how proud I am being your dad. Just be yourself and motivate yourself to be the best version of you. I love you." As I read the text, the last line stuck out to me. Be the best version of you. Everyone take a moment and think to yourselves, how do you envision the best version of you? Is it career success, financial, personal achievement? If I were to ask you, tell me about yourself, what would you share? How would you define you? If your idea, the best version of you, is constricted to external success or reward, you and I fall into the same category. When I think of the best version of me, I see myself with tangible accomplishments and some sort of concrete external success. So reading that text from my dad, it was extremely puzzling to understand that he wasn't proud of the accomplishment. To him, that was just the end result. He was more proud of the experience leading up to it. The courage it took me to put myself in a new experience, and the action of challenging myself outside of my comfort zone. It was more about the pursuit and putting in my best effort, regardless of the outcome. My dad's words led me to think how we often focus solely on our accomplishments and our failures. We sometimes can define our whole identity based on our accomplishments. Our resume-worthy accomplishments, our hard skills. And our soft skills, the skills that carried us on our pursuit to success or failure, are forgotten as just adjectives. We forget the adjectives that make us who we are, like our hard work, our compassion, our perseverance, because there aren't facts to back it up. We live in a society that values labels to prove success, labels to define who we are, and sometimes adjectives just aren't good enough. When I look back at my own experiences, I see how accomplishments and failures are just milestones along the way and don't capture the full scope of who I am or what I've learned. Going into my junior year of high school, I decided that I was going to run for a duo position on student council with my friend Sophie. For me, student council has always been a huge part of how I identify myself within my school community. I live for overly competitive spirit games, planning school events, and most of all, seeing my classmates love a community that I take a part in building. So, it was more than important to win. I put my heart and soul into every little detail leading up to the election, and as you can imagine, when we didn't win, it was a pretty hard letdown. It was failure. And through my perception of myself, it solidified that I was not capable or deserving of that title. I let that failure define how I saw myself, that maybe my best was simply not good enough. So much so that when next year rolled around for senior class elections, the role of senior class president, a position that I've wanted since my freshman year of high school, I considered abandoning. My dad ultimately convinced me not to give up on something I was passionate about just because I was afraid of the outcome. Even though my confidence was a bit shaken, I wrote my speech, I practiced, and this time, I'm proud to say that I won. And in the moment, I was proud of myself because I thought that this accomplishment all of a sudden proved that I was capable. I only saw value in the label, and I completely failed to recognize that the hard work I put into both scenarios, along with my dedication, my passion, the courage it took for me to try again, is so much more important than the end result. Just as my dad reminds me, accomplishments or failures do not add or deduct anything to who you are as a person. Using your soft skills, the skills that make you, you, to put in 100% of your effort into every experience is more defining of who you are. I challenge everyone to separate themselves from their external success or failure and instead to see the value in the journey and the challenges overcome, focusing less on labels and instead valuing the lessons learned and how we carry ourselves on a daily basis. Next time someone asks you, tell me about yourself. Don't define yourself based on all your externalities, and think about all your internal qualities that make you, you. Let that be how you define yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Next, please join me in welcoming Natalia Pradon, a senior from Flintridge Preparatory School. Natalia lives in La Cañada, Flintridge, and is the daughter of Ben Pradon and Dimple Basine.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would just like to take a moment to share with you all something that's unexpectedly become such an important part of my life. Yoga. More than just a physical practice, yoga is my way of slowing down, taking time for myself, and ultimately giving back to others from a place of intention and balance. Before I dive into the rest of my speech, I want to invite you all to try a brief breathing exercise. So let's all sit up straight, relax our shoulders, and I'm going to guide you through the victorious breath, or in yoga, we call it the Ujjayi breath. Before I guide you, I would just like to explain it. You inhale and exhale solely through your nose, gently constricting the back of your throat so it makes a soft ocean-like sound, and seal your lips. I'll guide you through it twice. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Do you all notice how your mind begins to settle and you're more fully present in this moment? That's exactly what yoga is for me. It's a way for me to slow down and recharge so I can better serve those around me. I started my yoga practice during the COVID-19 pandemic when life was undoubtedly hectic. My mother, who eventually became a yoga instructor, inspired me to join her along her spiritual journey. And now I'm proud to say I've completed over 55 classes at Core Power Yoga. It's become an essential part of how I care for myself so I can bring my best self into the world. At the start of each class, my mother asks for students to set a goal or an intention if there's anything they want to leave on the mat for the night. And every single time, she suggests the same thing: to live fully in this moment, not worrying about what we said yesterday or what's to come in the future, to give moments to yourself now so you can give moments to others later. And this simple idea has truly had a profound impact on me. The idea of being present is something that is deeply connected to my heritage and to my ancestors. Nepal, with its rich spiritual traditions and Himalayan mountain landscapes, is a place where mindfulness is not just an ideal, but it's a way of life. And generations before me have emphasized the importance of seizing the opportunities in front of us to make a difference. One example of this is my dadu, or my grandfather on my father's side, who was the first in my family to attend and graduate from college in Kathmandu, Nepal. He then went on to become the Secretary of State and Ambassador of Nepal, engaging in key negotiations, demarcating borders, and standing up for the rights of Tibetan and Nepalese refugees. And his legacy shows me that being present isn't just about personal benefit or advancement, but it's about recognizing and acting on the opportunities in front of us to create change. And undoubtedly, my parents' dedication to service is such a guiding force in my life. My mother, a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy Medical Corps, and my father, a spine surgeon with his own practice, live lives rooted in purpose. And that same drive has ultimately been passed down to my sister and me. But none of us can make a difference if we don't take the time to center ourselves first. And yoga has been the practice to teach me this balance. In high school, I've had the opportunity to co-found my own podcast, the Chit Chat Podcast, where I host, record, edit, produce episodes where I amplify the voices of South Asian trailblazers in my community, in the local and international scale. I also serve as one of the chairs of my school's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, Bridge, where I host events, guest speakers, facilitate identity-based discussions, and create fundraisers, all to make my school a more inclusive place. But each of these projects requires not just effort, but intention, an ability to act with purpose. And so now you all might be wondering how my love for yoga or my family stories affect you all, but here's what I hope to leave you all with: a call to reflect on how you can find balance in your own lives. Yoga has taught me to take a step back, be present, and replenish myself, not just for personal growth, but for the sake of others. And this lesson is universal. In a world where we're all constantly being pulled in different directions, being present allows us to focus, act with intention, and make a meaningful impact. So now I want to ask you all this: how can you be more present in your own life? Are you making the most of every and each moment to uplift those surrounding you? My family stories aren't just to be admired, but they are challenges. They challenge us to ask ourselves, am I living with intention? And my hope is that this awareness of presence compels you all to do the same, to find time for yourself, to recharge, and to give back to the world with intention, as this is what leads people like you and people like me and the people surrounding us to have our best days ever. Thank you.
Natalia, thank you. I told you guys these women were fantastic, right? These young ladies. I told you you'd be inspired. I might have to take a yoga class. I've been thinking about it. Now, if we could please welcome Simone Ball. She is a senior at Arcadia High School. Simone lives in Arcadia and is the daughter of Erit and Tracy Ball.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me ask, how many of you make New Year's resolutions? It could be a new hobby, new goal, newfound interest. Anyone? Okay, I see a couple hands. All right. Now, how many of you actually follow through with said goals? Nearly 31% of adults ages 35 to 78 make at least one resolution each year, with an average of only 6% following through with said goals. Why is it that so many fail to commit to their goals? Is it fear of failure or fear of commitment? You see, at 13, influenced by my parents, I started to make resolutions of my own. New Year's is a big celebration in my family. On January 1st, we'd celebrate the coming of another year, spent together by tackling hardships, guided by love and laughter. We'd go around that morning, sharing our aspirations and goal for the year to come. But there was always this two-syllable word that lingered in my mind, unspoken from my lips, never reaching the air. Maybe. Maybe I'll be more outgoing this year. Maybe I'll be more confident. Maybe I'll stop worrying and trust what my mother says about the journey being just as important as the destination. Growing up in a household of extroverts was not easy. Despite my parents' efforts to break my chrysalis, the indecisiveness and the doubtfulness in the word alone constantly shrouded me with doubt until the one maybe that came to mind changed my life forever. Let me set the scene. It was spring of my 8th and final year of junior high, and due to the early stages of vaccinations for the COVID-19 pandemic, schools were allowed to reopen. And my high school hosted varsity pep squad tryouts. And it was on that day something inside me flipped. I felt myself say aloud, and to my surprise, there was no maybe at the beginning of the sentence. I'm going to try out for varsity cheer. And it was on that day that I gave myself permission to be fearless. What better way to get past my timidity than to be a cheerleader? If I could flash back now to 13-year-old Simone, I can still recall the way her breathing started to sparse throughout the tryout. I remember how scared, nervous, but most of all how excited I was, because I had managed to believe in myself fearlessly. And I can now say there were no more maybes that came to mind. Rather, now I brought air and life to words of I did and I tried. And that's exactly what I did. I conquered, and to my surprise, I made it. A quote I like to live by is from film producer and actress Viola Davis, who says, "When your passion and drive are greater than fear, you just dive." Cheer became my passion and the gateway for me not only to find confidence within myself, but as a dedicated team player. And now that I can reflect on those past 4 years, I can strongly say that it represents my best day ever, because as the achievement of being a cheerleader and cheer captain, I continue to carry on the traits of leadership, confidence, and daring, and being bold while conducting my team. My growth allowed me to blossom into this new person, similar to that of a rosebud, tightly curled, yet just as my self-belief and courage slowly unfurled, each petal became a step towards confidence and a leading factor for me to be inspirational to not just myself, but my peers all around me. As for the thorns, what's a rose without thorns? They were my boundaries and lessons learned that also protect this newfound strength instilled within me. Within this newfound strength, I found myself being more present within my high school career and living for now than for what is to come. Now I recognize that I can fully experience life by the opportunities I take, regardless of the outcome. Each setback faced, each risk taken, ultimately shapes who I am and who I aspire to become. This newfound strength allows me to live life without limits. The traits of being a leader have transcended into my positions as a Link Crew leader on my campus and a volunteer for my community-based clubs Hope Can Cure Cancer and Period Poverty, both specializing in educating students within our community at large and giving back to them. As I leave you here today, I hope my journey of timidity can help recognize the idea that maybe is not a shadow of intention. It's a placeholder that can only form into something tangible once you act upon it. I encourage you to allow your New Year's resolutions to be like the start of a fresh new chapter, a thrilling chapter where you wake in January 1st with the promised action, clear and absolute. With every step forward, you turn your hopes into realities, unshackled by hesitation. It's more than just a resolution. It's the first page of a thrilling new chapter where the best day ever begins because you release yourself from the maybe and you dare it to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. I just want to be clear. That's not a heckler, right? What is that? It's a bird? A parrot? Is that what you said? I thought it was a goat. And I'm like, there can't be any goats in Pasadena. What is going on? So it's a parrot? That's a parrot? Well, they are part of the celebration. And so I just want to recognize these young women because they didn't give it a second glance, right? They are just focused. And here I'm wondering where the hecklers are. That's what you get for being a news person. All right. Thank you so much, Simone. Next, we have a senior at Westridge School, Lindsay Charles. Lindsay Charles is up next. She's the daughter of Mark and Martha Charles, and she lives in San Marino.
When I say the word permaculture, what do you hear? Would you dismiss it and let it brush past your ears? Would you pick it apart, try and discover its meaning through the stem, prefix, or sound? Maybe you already know what it means. Merriam-Webster defines it as an agricultural system or practice that seeks to integrate human activity with natural surroundings so as to create highly efficient, self-sustaining ecosystems. Pretty clunky, right? But for me, this large, clunky word has changed my understanding of the world completely. When I first joined my school's brand new permaculture garden, it served as an addition to my sustainability efforts, a way to expand my knowledge of environmental science. I showed up to the first class, shovel in hand, envisioning neat rows of flowers, section fences, and fancy automatic sprinklers. Instead, the site that lied before me looked more like a mess of vines, chopped up logs, and anything else that seemed to have lost its way to the nearest compost bin. I gripped my shovel a little tighter and looked up at the faces around me. Although not a single word was uttered, my peers and I seemed to share a thought. We were in for a long year. Through hours of weeding, sitting under the sun, and occasional gossip with my fellow gardeners, I started to grasp the true nature of permaculture. It wasn't about imposing our desires on the garden, but about observing and understanding what an ecosystem needs to thrive. I learned about the contributions these once seemingly useless elements brought. And while I could go on and on about the functionality of floor vines or the benefits of rotten pieces of wood, I want to bring your attention to something a little more valuable. All of these have one thing in common. They each served a unique purpose. Everything from the apple trees that shaded to the entire garden to the little grains of soil that stuck between the skin of my fingers and the nails that lie above them was there for a reason. I quickly realized that the point of permaculture was not to plant and revel in my favorite flowers, but to understand how the plants, insects, and even soil come together to create something sustainable, something alive. Permaculture became a gateway for me to appreciate others for their contributions in more mundane moments in life I may have overlooked before. I connected, not just with nature, but with people, with the environment, and with the world around me. I saw unique contributions that brought joy to each person, family, and community. And whether it was seeing a familiar friend's smile in passing or a new concept I may have learned from my chemistry teacher, I saw all of these acts as strings, connected to one another, weaving a web of collaboration and emotional connection. This notion persisted when I tried out for the Rose Court. Each person I saw, a quote-unquote +1 guiding me from room to room, the committee members I still nervously stand in front of today, or the 6 other girls that sit among us that have made the bond of a few weeks feel like one of a lifetime, serve as only the tip of the iceberg that represents the very organization that brings us together today. As I get to know you all and take time to observe and reflect, I can't help but notice the element of connection that the tournament brings. It's responsible not only for the friendships formed between members, staff, and princesses, but also for the connections established through watching the Rose Parade our nation looks forward to every New Year's Day. When we take the time to understand, we open ourselves up to deeper relationships and richer experiences. So, I encourage you, the next time you're having a conversation with someone, to dig a little deeper, pun intended. Use it as an opportunity to better understand them, not just by hearing the words that leave their mouth, but by also recognizing the light that enters their eyes when speaking about a certain passion, or to recognize the true emotional weight of their head as they rested on your shoulder. Through the act of noticing, we can make any day feel like the best day ever for ourselves and others. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see how the roots, leaves, and vines of their gardens intertwine with yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. And now, please, will you welcome Kate Kelly. She is a senior at La Cañada High School. Kate lives in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and is the daughter of John and Amy Kelly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Raise your hand if you ever looked at something and said, I can't do it. Who said that this year? This month? This week? Today? Growing up, I never thought I could be an athlete, but my family encouraged me to do so because of the benefits of participating in sports. I tried basketball, but I hated taking the ball away from my opponent when I knew she wanted it. Softball was another fail, standing at bat, holding back tears while everyone was depending on me to hit them home. I tried just about every sport until I fell in love with tennis and golf, as they were both entirely dependent on me. However, both tennis and golf are fall sports, so in order to get out of PE, I had to play a sport year-round. So I turned to track and field, which I quickly learned that too was not for me, as I was painfully slow. So I set my sights on high jump. At 5'10", I was the perfect height according to my coach. I did not know a thing about high jump, and I had never done it before, yet I was determined. I would show up, ready to learn every practice, but I was incredibly afraid of jumping over the bar. It was as if the shiny purple bar was taunting me with its height, and so instead I would run straight past it. It became a running joke. I was the high jumper who could not jump. But I continued to practice each day. On my very first meet, I surprisingly jumped. Although I only cleared 3'6", just about the height of my waist, and I placed near the bottom, I was just proud of myself that I made it over the bar. The cycle continued, practicing without really making much improvement or being able to move past my mental block. Until the league finals, something clicked, and I thought to myself, what if I just jump? And so I did. I started out at 3'6". I made it over. Then 3'8". I cleared it again. 9 jumps later, it was down to me and one other girl, staring at 4'6". I jumped. I had missed it. I had 2 attempts left. I started rocking back and forth, staring at the bar, not with fear this time, but with excitement. And I jumped. I stared back in disbelief. I had cleared the bar. I was the runner-up in the entire league. I went from being unable to jump over the bar to becoming one of the best junior varsity high jumpers in the league. It was a journey that taught me something profound. When we take the leap, literally or figuratively, we discover what we are truly capable of. I was too afraid to take that jump at first, but once I did, I realized that living fearlessly is how we create our best moments. I went from being From that moment on, I took jumps daily. From starting my own clubs at school to trying out for the Rose Court, I approached each new challenge with the same mindset I had gained from athletics. True growth can only happen when we take that jump. And just as I cleared that high jump bar, I started clearing my own personal hurdles, taking the risk of putting myself out there in front of others and reaching new heights in everything I pursued. Now, I want you to all think back to your best day ever. Maybe it was the day you got married, won the state championships, landed your dream job, or just had a breakthrough in your personal life. What do all of those moments have in common? You took a jump. You pushed past your comfort zone, embraced the challenge, and allowed yourself to experience something new. Our best days do not happen by chance. They happen when we dare to take a jump into the unknown, just as I did on that track, staring down the high jump bar. Those are the moments that change us, that lead us to even more incredible moments ahead of us. So as you all leave here today, I want you to remember this. Your best day ever is waiting, and it could happen when you least expect it. All you have to do is be willing to take that jump. Thank you.
I just have to tell you young women, it's so interesting because you talked about role models and being inspired by someone, and you inspire me. I'm sitting here listening to these stories, and I can find connections in everything you're saying. And, you know, Kate, it's interesting because you talked about jumping, and I'm taken back to when I left Denver. This goes back to the beginning of my story, which I had no idea what your speeches were about. But when I left Denver, I remember being interviewed. So I'd been there 10 years. I was born and raised in Denver. My family's from Colorado, many generations. I never thought I would leave Colorado. And I worked there for 10 years at a television station. And when I left, I was interviewed. And I said, you know, sometimes you just have to jump. And I really believed that. I didn't know what was going to happen here in La La Land, but I was going to jump. And the news director who actually gave me the job in Denver, he was the news director, and I was an intern, and for some reason, he saw something in me, and he believed in me, and he kept giving me opportunities. And he sent me flowers when I got here to LA, and there was just one word, and it said fly. And I've saved it for 26 years since I've been here, because I jumped and I flew. And I could cry thinking about this, because all the things you guys have said really, I think, resonates with all of us in some way. So thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for being our Rose Court. And I can't wait to see who is queen, but the truth is, all of you represent something so special, and I'm going to be so proud of you all when I watch you doing your beautiful princess and rose queen waves. I know I'm not doing it right. I do this. I'm doing it all wrong. But I will be so proud of you on January 1st. So please help me give them another huge round of applause, the 2025 Rose Court. The time is almost here to announce the 106th Rose Queen. At this time, I invite the Rose Court to you want to practice your wave goodbye? You can leave. You guys have to be excused now. You can go get ready. You can say goodbye. Go ahead. Come on. There you go. There. See, they know how to do it. And for our guests, before you all head over to the dessert table, let me remind you that the announcement and coronation of the 106th Rose Queen will take place on the front steps of Tournament House promptly at 2:30 this afternoon. Please be sure to begin making your way to the front lawn by about 2:15. It's a very long hike. Take your time getting there. And as you make your way, please stop by the table to take the red roses provided by Passion Growers. Until then, we invite you to enjoy dessert in each other's company before making your way to the front lawn. We kindly ask that the chairs be made available to those in need of seating. I've so enjoyed being here as your host, your MC. What an honor to introduce this year's court. They were fantastic. On behalf of the Pasadena Tournament of Roses Association, President Ed Morales, and the 2025 Rose Court, we'd like to thank you for once again joining us. And I invite you to join me tomorrow morning, bright and early, 4 a.m. on Today in LA, NBC4. We stream on Peacock, Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and all the places where you stream. Have a beautiful day and Happy New Year.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ed Morales, and I've had the great honor and privilege of serving as the 2025 president of the Pasadena Tournament of Roses, producers of the 136th Rose Parade presented by Honda and the 111th Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential. Each year for the past 105 years, the Pasadena Tournament of Roses has selected the most outstanding young women in our community to serve as its ambassadors. This year, that process began just 7 weeks ago. Right here, hundreds of young women from throughout our community gathered, all in hopes of becoming part of this beloved tradition. Less than 4 weeks ago, we proudly introduced our 2025 Rose Court. And since then, they've been busy working with our outstanding coaches on public speaking, media training, etiquette, and leadership. In between all that work, they've managed to have some fun too. And the fun is just beginning. Today, I have the pleasure of announcing this year's Rose Queen, and I'm delighted to be joined by our 1993 Rose Queen, Liana Yamasaki. Now, let's meet our court. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming, from La Cañada High School, Kate Callie. From Maranatha High School, Lizette Parker. From Westridge School, Lindsay Charles. From John Muir High School, Sanaya Brunston. From Arcadia High School, Simone Ball. From Mayfield Senior School, Laura Georgian. From Flint Ridge Preparatory School, Natalia Pradham. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Rose Court. Ladies, we've arrived at the moment that we've all been waiting for. Before I reveal the Queen, I want to tell you how proud we are of all of you and how honored I am to share this year with you. And now, will the chairman of the Queen and Court Committee, Lee Gluck, provide me with the envelope. Ladies and gentlemen, our 106th Rose Queen is Lindsay Charles. Queen Lindsay, please step forward. Queen Lindsay, on behalf of the Rose Court, I ask you to take the Queen's oath. Are you ready?
Yes.
I receive this crown
I receive this crown
as a symbol of being named
as a symbol of being named
the 106th Rose Queen
the 106th Rose Queen
by the Pasadena Tournament of Roses.
by the Pasadena Tournament of Roses.
I value the significance
I value the significance
of the role of Rose Queen
of the role of Rose Queen
and pledge to honor and celebrate
and pledge to honor and celebrate
the history and traditions
the history and traditions
set by the 105 Rose Queens
set by the 105 Rose Queens
who came before me.
who came before me,
And I embrace that responsibility
and I embrace that responsibility
on behalf of the 2025 Rose Court.
on behalf of the 2025 Rose Court.
We accept the trust placed in us
We accept the trust placed in us
as ambassadors
as ambassadors
for the Tournament of Roses
for the Tournament of Roses
and vow to uphold the cherished traditions
and vow to uphold the cherished traditions
and support the association's
and support the association's
unwavering commitment to the Pasadena community.
to the Pasadena community.
We promise to enrich the lives
We promise to enrich the lives
of the people
of the people
and the organizations
and the organizations
with whom we meet.
with whom we meet.
This
This
is our solemn pledge.
is our solemn pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Rose Queen. Ladies and gentlemen, from Mickey Moto of Beverly Hills, please welcome Diane Hoover. Huh? Oh. It's my honor and privilege to crown the 106th Rose Queen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the 106th Rose Queen and the 2025 Rose Court. And with that, our program comes to a close. Thank you for being part of this unforgettable day and for your continued support throughout the year. We can't wait to celebrate with you on New Year's Day for the best day ever. Thank you.